the chosen one on the Democrat side, it appeared early on, was going to be Hillary Clinton.
And I still believe she may well be the Democrat nominee, even though Obama blew her doors off in Iowa and is predicted to blow her doors off in New Hampshire. I still believe at the end of the day, I believe Senator Clinton will be the Democrat nominee. Now, some folks asked me down home, in fact, this very day before I came to Asheville, who my choice for president was. I said, well, to tell you what a good prognosticator I am, my choice for our nominee, Richard, was Senator George Allen from Virginia. You remember he failed in his reelection bid in 2006.
Yes, sir, he did.
And I firmly believe, Richard, that if he had prevailed and had, in fact, been reelected to represent Virginia, I believe he would probably be our leader in the presidential race now.
You're exactly right, Congressman Coble, but you know, all it takes is one sound bite
and that's not to be.
Spin that the media can turn on it, and he could not even get reelected. It was a close election, but he would have won hands down had not came out. But that's just the way it went.
That's the way it went, and that's the hand that's presently being held. Now, today, if you staked me out, Richard, which you're getting ready to do, I've narrowed it down to probably 3, maybe 4. I could live with Rudy Giuliani. I could live with Governor Romney. I could live with Governor Huckabee. Now, this is going to knock you off your chair, Richard, but I'm going to surprise you with this next one.
All right.
Ron Paul.
Oh,
that
really knocked me off.
Now, I don't embrace everything Ron says, but I was in Boone not too long ago, and Ron Paul signs are all over the Blue Ridge Mountains. I saw Appalachian students holding up big Ron Paul for President signs. And I called one of the students over at Appalachian and I said, I commend you students for your volunteerism in helping with these campaigns. And I said, I'll tell Ron Paul that you're working for him. Do you know him personally? I said, Paul, you've become a rock star in the Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
But much of what Ron says, I don't embrace. But much of what he says, I do embrace. He's a libertarian, as you know,
yes, libertarian.
Richard, in Republican clothing. I could even live with McCain. Sometimes McCain goes off the reservation, but he's a little maverick, and I have a little maverick in me, so I can't really fault him for that. Mm-hmm. So I really had to help you much, Rich, because I've given you four or five names.
The only one you didn't give was one that I kind of wanted to see early on, and I still have some hopes for him. You didn't even mention his name, and that would be Fred Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson didn't make my cut.
Didn't make your cut. Well, you know, we thought up here in the Carolina mountains that he would be a voice of a good conservative, but it just seemed like he didn't catch on.
It doesn't seem that he does. Of course, it's not over yet, but it's still
true.
Not likely.
It appears.
But and I believe you said that you didn't disagree with me when I said that I still believe that Senator Clinton is a force with whom to contend, but Obama has he obviously has the momentum now.
Mm-hmm. I think when the latter states come in, that's whenever Clinton will pick her steam up, and I think she will come in to be the nominee. You know, but it's interesting, and I'm glad that Ron Paul has got the youth to be active in this election. I'm glad that Obama has at least appeared to get that, because that's, I mean, when we have a low turnout of less than 20 to 25% of the total population that votes, that is almost a cry for defeat for the purpose of how our government stands today. We need to get involved in elections.
Well, Richard, you and I are talking today prior to the New Hampshire primary. Mm-hmm. I believe Ron Paul will make a credible showing in New Hampshire.
Oh, I think he will too.
And I'm not convinced that McCain is going to drub Governor Romney the way the prognosticators are claiming. Now, you and I have also omitted, and I don't think we've intentionally omitted it, we have failed to mention a North Carolinian.
John Edwards.
Now, if John Edwards, again, my opinion, and I repeat, Richard, my opinion is no better than your opinion nor your viewers. Mm. But I believe if John Edwards does not fare well in New Hampshire, and by well, I mean a number 2 spot, I just believe that the future does not look rosy for him in this current edition.
You know, that's a good perspective that you're coming out of. You know, but one thing that I think the folks here in North Carolina has already found out about John Edwards, I'm not sure if he can win his own state when it comes to running.
That's a good point. You're not the first person who's told me that. In fact, his parents, I've come to know his dad pretty well. His dad's a first-rate guy. Don't know John that well, but in fact, I met his dad in Moore County. They live in my county, in one of my counties. When John Edwards ran against my very good friend Locke Faircloth, who I'm sure may have been on your program, has he?
No, he before we had our access channel.
Okay, and I get along well with John Edwards. I just don't know him, but I met Mr. Edwards, his dad, on election day. In fact, I believe it was raining that day. I'm pretty sure it was, and we hit it off pretty well. And then I saw him most recently in Moore County, in the town of Robbins, where he lives. And he came up to me and said, "Oh, Mr. Coble, how are you?" And I said, Mr. Edwards? He said, "Yep, that is I. We had a nice visit down there." But,
that sounds fantastic. You know, it really is a small world when
it is
you get out
indeed.
here. You know, no doubt about it. You know, a lot of folks are probably thinking right now, why am I not more focusing on some current events? But I kind of want to get a feel for you and your experience and how the folks that you represent, and because you need to be introduced to the folks in the western part of North Carolina. You may represent the 6th District, but I just wanted to go that route. Now, having said that, let's turn to one of the most divisive issues at hand today, and that's the war. What's your opinion about the war at this point?
Well, Richard, when we lost our majority in the election, when we won our majority in '94 in the House in Washington, and had that majority role until '06, I claim that one of the reasons, two of the reasons that we lost our majorityship involved the S words and the I words. The S words, scandal and spending. The I words, Iraq and immigration. And the scandals, I have served, Richard, with members, Democrats and Republicans alike, who are either now serving active prison sentences or who have served prison sentences. I think a total of 5. We were blamed for most of that. Both Democrats and Republicans have both been guilty, but we were in the majority after all. And you come near blaming the people who are in the wheelhouse of the ship more than the people who are out on the deck.
Absolutely.
Of course, the Democrats in the wheelhouse now, as you know. And I think the scandals hurt us. Many of our base, Richard, were turned off by us because we were reckless spenders. We didn't practice prudent spending, as the Republican Party is known for. And then, of course, Iraq. I think it was not inappropriate to dispatch troops to Iraq because I am convinced that Saddam Hussein was an international terrorist. But Richard, let's be candid about it. The post-entry strategy, sloppy. I don't know whether it was bad intelligence, whether it was good intelligence that was ignored, but we did a very bad job of post-entry strategy. And of course, they're blaming us for it, and rightly so. We were in the wheelhouse of the ship. Immigration, Democrats and Republicans alike, in my opinion, must shoulder the blame for this. It's been ignored for so long, almost as if to say, well, if we ignore it, it'll get better or it'll go away. Well, Richard, when you ignore problems, they rarely get better and they rarely go away. I believe the solution to immigration, of course, that'll be one of our judiciary matters too. I don't sit on the immigration subcommittee, however. But it is my firm belief that it's going to have to be done in a 2-pronged approach.